Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders with a Heart podcast. Today, I have a very, very special guest, my good friend Chris. She's an incredible lady. We had a call about a week ago, and I was speechless. She has so many areas that she can talk about. She's an incredible wealth of knowledge. I love what she's doing. She's a intuitive manifestation specialist. She works with the clients. Love her mission, empowering individuals through spiritual, mental, and emotional healing to achieve clarity and abundance to live the life of their dreams. She's been in law enforcement for 40 years, shamanic practitioner for 40 plus years. So much we can talk about, and I'm super thrilled to have her here on the show. But first and foremost, we're gonna get to know her as a person. But it's in my honor to have her here, to have her here with us today. Chris, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much, Payman. I am honored and excited to be here with you right now.
Pleasure's all mine. Absolutely honored to have you here with us. So, as I said, we're gonna dive deep to get to know you as a human being first, and then we're gonna dive deep into all your amazing professional achievements. So, for people who don't know you, who's Chris as a person, as a human being?
Well, that journey has been a long one. I'm 62 years of age, soon to be 63. And it started out as a child. I never knew why my mother hated me. And I mean, from infant. Wow. And I found out from my brother that my mother actually tried to abort me 3 times and failed.
Wow. Okay.
So I evidently was determined and destined, divinely destined to be here for a purpose. At 4 years of age, I was hungry. I woke up early, nobody was up, and I got underneath the sink and drank some liquid Drano, which was pink at that day.
Oh, wow.
So they don't know why it didn't burn my esophagus, but it made me so toxic that I flatlined.
Oh, wow.
Which was my first of 3 near-death experiences in my life.
Wow.
And in that experience, I started having these imaginary friends. I remember being in the hospital and looking down and not understanding or comprehending what was going on. So, as long story short for this, as I came back to my body, I went through the veils. I went to the Creator, and he says, "What are you doing here, my child?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm here. I saw the light. I just came up to show up to find out." And he says, "It's way too early for you to be here. You need to go back." And the next thing I know, I'm laying on the bed in the hospital looking up, and I'm now trying to look past all the doctors and the nurses to see who that person on the ceiling was, not understanding that it was me.
Wow. Phenomenal.
So that was my first experience. And then my father's Native American, my mother's white, and my father was an alcoholic, and my mother was dealing with 6 kids, an alcoholic, and became very, very aggressive and abusive to everybody. So my dad and mom got divorced in the 60s, which at that time, it was a society norm. It was unheard. You don't do that. You don't.
Sure.
So she relied on the Catholic Church to help. And they told her, "You couldn't raise 6 kids by yourself. We'll help you." And I turned 8 in February. In May, I had my first Holy Communion. And in June, I found myself being orphaned in an orphanage with my brothers and sisters, and we were all separated.
Wow.
So I learned hate. I learned hate on a cellular level. I chased my mother down, and I'm literally running out of my shoes to try and catch her. And when I heard her accelerate the car and looked in the rearview mirror and looked me in the eyes, I stopped and I just gave up. Didn't know what to do, didn't know how to do it. And that journey took me to a time at 16 where 2 girls, actually I was 14, 2 girls tried to murder me while I was out at the orphanage.
Oh, no. Wow.
So they, in the middle of the night, I snored, and they took talcum powder, which talcum powder, when it gets wet, is much like cinnamon, and they poured it in my face. And I couldn't breathe. It was in my mouth. It wasn't like it was sprinkled. They took the cap off and just popped it all over my face, my nose, my eyes, my ears, and I couldn't breathe. And I told the Creator, I said, "Creator, take me now, or give me the strength to fight this. Give me the strength." And I became Hercules in my strength. And I pushed off 2, they were about 140 pounds each, girls who were holding me down so I couldn't breathe.
Wow.
And the fight was on, and finally rescue was called. and they cleared out my airways, but the matron at the orphanage never did anything to those 2 girls, but I got grounded for a year. So
I remember that story you shared last time with us, that when the lady from he came, she fell down the stairs, something
I
like
pushed
that.
her. I
Oh,
did.
okay.
I pushed her inadvertently. I had a blanket over me.
Of course, you
She's
couldn't see
beating me
anything.
with
Yeah.
a bat. I
Mhm.
don't know who it is. And I push her, and she had called the police. Yes.
Wow.
And wanted me arrested, but I still couldn't breathe. So the police showed up, and then they called rescue for me to clear my airways so I could breathe, and threatened to arrest her. And she called the superintendent of the orphanage, and he's promised he would take care of it. But again, that was one of another injustice that happened in my life. So at 15, I ran away from the orphanage. I'd had enough. I was living on the streets of Colorado Springs. And in the wintertime, it gets pretty cold.
Yes.
But I was determined, and I didn't know why or how, but I knew I was going to be okay. And in the 70s, as a girl, that was unheard of. So it was
Sure.
hiding. I literally was hiding in caves. And that's when I started my shamanic practitioner, because I started to go within and find out why I hated, why I hurt, why I didn't love myself.
So when you were in nature, how did you survive? Were you hunting your food or?
No, I usually was shoplifting. I'd go into a store and
Oh,
steal some
wow.
bread and peanut butter and jelly, and I'd walk out, and that would hold me over for a week, because I'd have a sandwich a day, and
Wow.
I'd use one slice of bread so to extend it out. But the fact is I had some innate understanding of life, of nature, that I knew I would be okay, that I would be protected. So at 16, I ran into my mother. I didn't recognize her, but she recognized me, and she'd had another child and needed a babysitter. I needed a roof.
Wow. Oh,
So
wow.
I had this agreement. And then at 18, I left, and I never went back. Never went back. When I was 20, my brother was killed by a drunk driver down in Brownsville, Texas. The guy was from an affluent family. He was never held accountable for his actions. His parents actually helped him cover it up, saying he was here and his car was stolen. And I told everybody, I said, do not give me his name. Do not tell me where he lives. Do not tell me anything, because I will avenge my brother's death. I was still that angry in life.
Of course, rightfully so. Yeah. Wow.
So as time went by, I had a daughter, and I learned love.
Yes.
And I learned that giving life was the most precious gift a person can do. And I didn't know I had that power. Does that make sense? I was so naive and so
Yes.
stupid that, and I say stupid because the fact is I learned, I got an education. I graduated from high school.
Wow.
But I didn't understand the physical part of relationships with yourself, that it determines what kind of relationship you have with other people. And if you're that naive, and I actually say ignorant instead of stupid, because you don't know, you'll make mistakes that is a life sentence.
Sure.
So when I had my daughter, they did a what they call a saddle block in the day, but it's like an epidural.
Okay.
And they didn't know where it went, because I could feel them cutting the episiotomy. I could feel them sewing me up after I had delivered my daughter. And I kept telling them, I can feel this, I can feel this. And they said, oh no, it's just nerves, it's just nerves. And when they unstrap your legs, I picked my legs up and I said, do you believe me now? All of a sudden, these doctors freaked. And I laid on the same sheet I delivered on for 6 hours, because they didn't know where the medicine had gone. I developed an infection in my uterus, because that's staph infections happen in hospitals.
Sure.
And I ended up with cancer at 22 because of it.
Oh, wow.
So I had to have a hysterectomy. I was a single mom at that point, not knowing what to do, living in Wyoming, I just wanted to be a hermit. I had my dog, my daughter, and my horse. My life was good. I had a job and I was making ends meet. And this came up. So I was like, oh, wow. So all my Catholic training came in, and it was like, wow, who's going to want me? Who's going to love me? I can't have children. I've got baggage. I've got a dog, a horse, and a child. That's all baggage. So who would want me? So I
Yeah,
stayed
wow.
single. But
Mhm.
after my brother's death and the injustices that happened with him, I went to work for a police department as a dispatcher. And I stayed there when I had my cancer. After I'd been out and had recovered and was coming back to work, my boss, the lieutenant, came into dispatch and said, "Hey, I heard the wool. I just talked to your doctor, and he said he had to take a couple extra stitches to close the wool sac." And I sat back and went, "What? What are you implying here? What is this? What is this?" And he just started laughing, and it hit me. It was like, dude, I'm dealing with cancer. I'm not promiscuous. I have a dog, a daughter, and a horse. I don't give two hoots about relationships. And I said, "Could you do me a favor? Could you sit here for just a minute?" And he came over and sat down in front of it. I picked up all my stuff and I said, "I quit." And I walked out.
Wow.
And it was one of the most empowering things I did in my life, because I wasn't going to tolerate that. It was
Of
so
course.
humiliating and
Sure.
dehumanizing as a woman and as a person. I was like, this is
Absolutely.
gone.
Wow.
So I moved in with family, and then I was like, I can't live here. I stayed a year. I was like, I can't live here. So I went back to work, and I went to work out at a men's penitentiary, and I was a correctional officer.
Wow.
I was trained in hostage negotiations and as far as the riot team was
Oh,
concerned.
wow.
And so I was out there. And of course, in that day, I was one of 3 females that worked at a men's penitentiary back in the 80s. It was a man's world.
Sure.
And in a men's penitentiary, the perception that a lot of the male officers had was, oh, you just want to see naked men. No, not really. I need a job. I want to do a job, and I
Sure.
want to be of service.
Mhm.
So I met my husband. He was a police officer. We actually met over shoveling horse shit. He had his horse stabled at the same place I did. We would be cleaning out our individual stalls. He'd walk by, and of course, I'm the kind of person, "Hey, how are you?" "Oh, good. How are you?" "Good." "Okay." And so we'd see each other in passing, and nothing happened at that point. But one day it got up to 0 in Wyoming. And as we know, in the Northern Hemisphere, 0 in the higher climates is pretty much almost spring weather. So I went out to ride my horse, and my horse was gone.
Wow.
So I'm the kind of mom that loves to baby my animals, baby my daughter, be that support system. And I started beating on a grain bucket. And I went outside of the stables, and I was beating on a grain bucket. All I heard was some screaming and yelling off in the distance. And it was a rider on my horse's back, and couldn't control her because she knew what that beating meant. It was her grain, and she was coming for it. And all of a sudden I saw another rider, and all of a sudden I hear, "Who's beating on that grain bucket?" And I'm going, "Who the blah, blah, blah is on my horse?" Well, it was another cop that I had known, and my current husband, before we were current husbands and wives. And I said, "You could be arrested in the state of Wyoming for rustling cattle or horses. And you didn't have permission to take mine." And so the joke is, I tell everybody my husband's a horse thief. So 40 years later, he's still my horse thief. So with that, but in the process, the snowblower broke in Wyoming. And I said, "I'm not shoveling the snow out here. The snow drifts get so high." So we moved to Florida. And because of all my background in law enforcement in the correctional system, I went into corporate security, but I also got involved with the Juvenile Delinquency Gang Prevention Council because of all the gang work I had done. And I helped change the law in the state of Florida because truancy wasn't illegal. And every year in Fort Lauderdale, but the county is Broward County, they'd had 22,000 kids going truant every year. That means these kids are falling through the cracks and not getting their education. And as a kid that is from beyond the tracks and had nothing, the one thing I knew, that was the secret for them to become successful, is to get your education. So I got the politicians together, the state's attorneys, law enforcement, mental health, the school district, and DCF, Department of Children and Families. And we were able to get federal funding to create a juvenile intake facility. So if a kid started becoming truant and found on the streets or in the malls or, involved in crime, they would be taken to this juvenile facility. And so their parents would be called. Normally, police officers would have to sit with that person or that child until the parents showed up. And sometimes it would be 5 or 6, 7 hours till they showed up. So what we did at this facility is we called the parents and said, you have 1 hour to come get your child, or we're going to bring your child to you where you're at work.
Wow.
And know that your child will be handcuffed, because by law, we have to have them safe in the cruiser. So they're going to have to be handcuffed for their safety and the officer's safety. And they cannot be unhandcuffed until they're turned into your ownership or turned into you personally. And a couple people tried it. And then when they totally found out, and it blew up on MySpace and all these those old medias at that time, Yahoo and stuff. Oh my God, go get your kids. These people are not playing. They will bring your kid to your job in handcuffs, and it's humiliating. So I was very proud of being able to, one, help out. But in 2 years, this facility helped the daytime crime dropped 22%.
Wow.
Because if you're going to cut school, you don't want to do it alone. You do it with a friend. If you go to their neighborhood, then you go and burglarize people's houses in the neighborhood to see what you can get. Or they go to the malls and shoplift, and cost of clothing then rises because the stores are not going to be out of their money. So I was very proud of that. But at the point, I also was working with the Juvenile Delinquency and Gang Prevention Council, but I was also working with the Multi-Agency Gang Task Force in Miami-Dade and Broward County on the streets. And this is where I get into my spirit guide that came to me when I was 8. And his name is Geronimo.
Oh, wow.
He was bulletproof. And when I was working on the streets with the task force, even though I was a part of the Juvenile Delinquency Gang Prevention Council, I wasn't in law enforcement per se. I was working with them. I didn't have a gun. I'm breaking up fights. I'm chasing down kids. I'm jumping over fences. And Miami-Dade, Broward County, some of the toughest areas. It's like Watts out in LA. And this was my biggest weapon, was my mouth and treating people. That was my weapon. And the love in my heart for knowing that these kids have a choice. It's just getting them away from who they're hanging out with to understand this choice is better and will give you more in life than that. So after 7 years of doing that, I went into the school district for the school board police, and I worked at an alternative school, 3,000 kids. And I was there for 15 years. And it was one of the most rewarding jobs I ever had. It was the toughest. I'm chasing down football player, the quarterback of the football team, because he's dealing drugs during his ROTC class on the football field. So the kids are all like, can she be on our football team? Man, she chased down the quarterback. She's tough, or I'm breaking up fights, because it wasn't a community school. Mm-hmm. It was a boundary school where they took the kids that weren't in their specific boundaries and dumped them in the school. So I had 44 buses every morning and 46 buses leaving afternoon to drop these kids off. So we had gangs from their local areas, and then you put them into one area. Now they want to claim the school for their section for whatever they do. So it's like, no, this is my home. You're coming to my place. We're going to act civilly. None of them knew. None of them knew who I was or where I'd been before or my life story. And I didn't tell them because I didn't want them to say, oh, well, she's a street kid. She'll break the rules for us. I didn't. I actually helped them and supported them in ways that they couldn't be supported. And I've had to defend boys on false rape charges.
Oh, wow.
And these girls, and this, you have to understand, this was years ago, and these girls wanted to date the jocks of the football team. They had sex with them in the stairwells of our school. They just didn't realize they were being videotaped, because I had them put cameras everywhere.
Wow.
So that if there was a false, or if there was it would give me extra eyes and ears. And 4 girls wanted to hook up with the biggest jocks of the football team. And they came up with this scheme that they're going to have sex with them and then extort them from breaking up with their current girlfriend and go out with them. Otherwise, they were going to place false charges. One boy came to me, and this is how I found out about it. He was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, Fergie. I don't know what to do. And I went, well, dude, what's up? What's going on? He said, man, I was stupid. I had sex with this girl in the stairwell. I said, well, wait a minute. Was it here? And he said, yes, it was at the school. And I said, okay, when was it? And so he starts telling me the story. And I said, okay. I said, I get this feeling that there's other boys going through this too. And he goes, there's 3 other boys. And I said, would you do them a big, huge favor? Tell them to come talk to me. I need a statement. And this way I can check the camera system and I can help defend you. And so they did. They all came in and saw me. I got statements. I found the videos of all of this, but one mother was determined to believe her daughter. And she came into the school and demanded to see the SRO, that her daughter had been raped on campus, and she wanted accountability and she wanted justice. And I had already spoken to the SROs about this and told them what was going on, so they were prepared. But long story short, they asked her, they said, have you talked to Miss Ferguson? She's the security specialist. She might be able to enlighten you. She goes, I don't want to talk to her. I want a police report. I want to report this rape. And they said, are you sure you want to do this? And so they called me over and I said, hello. And she goes, I don't want to talk to you. I said, oh, well, good morning. Hello. Who are you? And so she goes, I'm here to file a police report. And I said, is this your daughter? What's your daughter's name? And they told me, and at that point I had 4 videotapes in my hand. And it was the 4 different incidents. And I said, hang on one second. I said, let me give this to the police. And she goes, what is that? I said, it's the videos of this alleged incident that you said happened. I said, what your daughter is unaware of is that stairwell is videotaped. Wow. And I said, so if you would like to go through with a police report, this is the evidence they're going to need to arrest your daughter for a false police report. And the mom looked at her daughter and the daughter just started crying. I said, ma'am, I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just here to make sure that the right thing happens. I said, your daughter and 3 other girls, her friends, concocted this idea of getting these guys as their boyfriends and didn't realize how it was going to backfire. But for me as a female, I'm like, oh my God, girls are doing this to boys? It's bad enough. Rape is a bad enough subject, but oh my gosh, where have we come to in society? I was more stunned by that than anything.
Oh, yes. God bless you for this ingenious idea, because that's you saving the life of these 4 guys. I mean, it completely deterred other girls from doing the same thing. And now it's becoming a pandemic, a different category, that boys are being framed with false rapes and all that all across the Western world. And their lives are ruined. Their lives are ruined. They can't get jobs. They can't get kicked out of universities, whatever. They have no future. And all of that for what?
Yeah. But here's a bigger thing. There was a guy on Facebook that killed his girlfriend, because she was going into a custody battle. It was getting real negative. And he killed her, took the babies and his other child with another woman, went to her house, his ex-wife's, and killed her on Facebook. I'm not saying it's justified what he did, but the question is, was he pushed to this, or was he really that bad guy? You know what I'm saying? But I look at it with both eyes.
Yeah. Wow.
Because sometimes there are women that are narcissists, and as a female, totally. That's hard to say. And they take advantage of their being, their mind, their thoughts, and they may try to control people as much as men. That's not equality.
No. And this is why in the corporate world now, there's been a very negative trend of, a lot of the men have realized that and do not even want to be in a room alone with a female employee. They always want to have the doors open, everything, because there've been crazy amounts of false accusation on men. And because unfortunately the legal system tends to believe more the female version than the man version, and the male's lives are ruined for what? Just because what she said without any proof. And now a lot of guys, especially men in the corporate world, not only are not are refusing to be even in a meeting room for a professional reason alone with a woman. They want to have at least 2 or 3 witnesses, but also even more sinister is that a lot of companies are now refusing to hire women because of the potential cause of them suing them or whatever, doing things like that. And that's hurting even more the women. Something has to be done on that.
Well, here's the thing is I've been teaching women self-defense for years, how to protect yourself. Don't go outside after dark. Carry your keys in between your fingers so
Sure.
you have a weapon to protect yourself. So I say, and this is, I think, more of a pendulum swing, Payman, because back in the 70s, women, if they wore a miniskirt, which was the trend of the time, they shouldn't have wore that. So they deserve to get raped. So the pendulum keeps swinging. Let's just teach people, men, how to not commit sexual acts. Let's teach women how not to make sexual accusations that are false. Let's teach treating people equally and fairly.
Absolutely.
And this way you don't have to worry about it. And that's the answer to that. But companies had, for in the past, over ages, well, centuries, women have been demonized.
Yes, that's true. Yes, absolutely.
So the fact is that Eve, oh my God, organized religion back in the day, and we're talking about, before Jesus Christ. Oh my God, Eve ate the apple and got us kicked out of paradise. It's all the women's fault. Well, the fact is that story's not even in the Bible. It never was a true story. They used it to control and demonize women.
Yes.
So this process has been going on, and women for centuries have been trying to just become equal. Yes. And they've been going on that understanding of the male mindset, which everybody's divine masculine, divine female. And they're like, okay, we're going to use their tactics. And then it makes it even worse for them. So it's all about saying, hey, I had to defend a lady at the jail where I was a facility duty officer here in Chattanooga, because she was hired to do a job a male had done before her. And she had more education, she had more experience and more knowledge than he did when he started, but they started her at $3,000 less a year than they started him. And that is still happening. So we have to look at the whole dynamics and not just the sections to make it fair.
Absolutely. Yes, totally.
So as I got into law enforcement, I became a criminal profiler. I love to watch people. I'm that observer. I'm that puzzle worker. I like to figure out what makes people think. And no matter what you do, no matter how you do it, there's always a reason. You may not know why you're doing it, but there's a subconscious reason that you do. And after 40 years, I just retired in May, but the last job I was working as a teacher assistant of a tracks program. And these kids, behavior issues cannot allow them to be in a normal classroom. They don't control themselves enough for whatever reasons. Some of them are self-diagnosed sociopaths and psychopaths. And as a criminal profiler, I could figure out what they were going to do before they did it because of their behaviorisms. And I would talk to them in a way like, you're really not thinking about doing something like that, are you? And they'd be like, how did you know? And it was like, it just came to my mind. I was hoping that this wasn't you, even though I'm extremely empathic. Nobody knew in law enforcement I was extremely empathic. Nobody knew I was a shamanic practitioner. Nobody knew that I speak light language. Nobody knows that I astral travel. I lived a duality for 45 years. And it was a hard road because I have clients and I'd be sitting in this chair with my duty pants below my waist, on my duty boots on and a top, and they wouldn't know that I had my t-shirt under my top. And as soon as I got done, I'm turning everything off. I'm pulling off the top. I'm putting on my bulletproof vest. I'm putting on my uniform shirt to run and my belt to run out to the door to go take care of things on the streets. And I became that walking lie detector just because of being empathic. And I could literally envision the incident as they're telling it and leaving out the parts where they were the perpetrator.
When you decided, was it your decision not to tell the people you work with about your incredible skills, do you think that if you had disclosed at least to your upper management, that would have helped you maybe have a bigger impact? And
It's funny you asked that question, because back when they had that MGM shooting out in Las Vegas,
Yes.
and all those people were killed
Mhm.
because they were, i.e., Trump supporters. I'm neither,
Yes.
either way, this is not a political statement.
Mhm.
But they were also, okay, they're country Western singers or country Western supporters, so they've got to be white supremacists, even though there was all races in the crowd that was killed.
Mhm.
I had a premonition that they were going, that's an entity on this planet was creating this thought process to hurt Trump supporters so they wouldn't go vote. And they were going to do it as at his rallies. And I had this vision of this person. I mean, I literally sent an email to the Secret Service describing this individual, describing how he was going to be a cable man or help a reporter out with the camera kind of stuff. And he was going to show up late, try to get his vehicle as close to the rally as possible so he could ignite it, not to hurt the president, but to hurt the people, to scare them, to put them in fear. Well, I never heard back from the Secret Service. A week later, I had a vision of this woman. It was right after Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh had been affirmed in our country. And I said, some lady is advertising on Facebook about taking out the Supreme Court Justice. And I called the Secret Service and they said, do you know where? I said, yes, I found it. They said, could you send us a copy, screenshot the page and send it to us? I said, yes. She was a preschool teacher in Michigan, and she was soliciting, hey, who's going to take one for the team and take out Justice Kavanaugh? So
That
here's
is
two
sick.
incidences,
That is
right?
sick. Yeah.
The third incident that happened where I contacted the Secret Service was when they had those fake bombs showing up everywhere. One went to Robert De Niro's. Robert De Niro lives in a home that has such a security system.
Sure.
You can't fart 100 yards in front of his house without him knowing about it. But he ended up with a pipe bomb in his house, and he never saw anybody that did it.
Yeah.
One was delivered to CNN. CNN is a news media. You can't get close to the building in CNN.
Supposed to be.
Well,
Yes.
I'm just saying, I'm just their story.
Yeah.
But the thing is how do a pipe bomb get into the security guy? And I promise you, there's cameras inside the lobby of CNN. There's camera pointing from inside out and outside pointing in.
Mhm.
But they didn't know who did it. And it got all the way up to the recording room and on air. And they're opening a pipe bomb when everything gets delivered to the basement, to the mailroom to get put up through. How does this happen?
Even just to another example, way back, even before 9/11, how many times were the CIA alerted that something like this would happen? They didn't pay attention to it.
Well, in 1983, they actually tried to blow up the World Trade Center, but they went in the parking lot. See, people don't know their history. It's a curse to be this age. It's a curse to know this information because they're like, oh my God, they killed us. Well, they've been trying to kill us since the 1980s. They blew up a van in the basement and it did minimal damage. It hurt cars, but it didn't hurt the trade center. And it was in 1982, 83 that they did this. So then they come back and they keep planning over all this time. And in 2001, they do it again and people are surprised. It's just like the pandemic, not to change the subject, but
thank you. Yes.
Coronavirus was created in this country before World War I.
Yes.
It was used in mustard gas in World War I in Europe. The first documented case of the Spanish flu was in Kansas.
Wow.
And then he was the cook. He's got the Spanish flu. He's cutting up and peeling potatoes and handling and, you know, wiping the nose on his hand and doing all this stuff. And it spreads.
Sure.
But H1N1 is the coronavirus.
Yes.
What are we dealing with in 2021? The coronavirus, H1N1. They're now saying it's H1N1 too.
Yeah.
So the fact is when the veils get lifted, they really get lifted. So back to the story where all these pipe bombs showed up, they claimed some guy in South Florida in a white van with all kinds of Trump stickers all over it. And he's
course.
been down there for 2 years.
Of
And
course.
it's not even, what's even funny about it, I lived in South Florida. I put a bumper sticker on my car between the beach, the sand, the salt water. They don't survive 6-8 months on a vehicle.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely.
And here this guy has pristine Trump signs all over his vehicle, and he's living in Aventura, Florida, which is one of the most elite areas of Dade County. I promise you, they wouldn't let him park that vehicle in their city, much less in a condo parking lot.
Thank you for speaking some common sense. Thank you. Yes.
So the fact is again, it's like I sent that to them too. Well, I never heard anything from them. I just noticed that they
course.
changed the way they started to do their rallies. They started doing them at airports. So everybody, even the media, had to be screened, which I was grateful because it was about
Yes.
saving lives.
Yes.
But here's the one thing that happened. When I moved to Tennessee, I had to get Tennessee certified in law enforcement. So I go to the police academy. I'm 60 years old. I'm running with 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 30, 40, 50-year-olds. I'm the oldest one in class, and I'm outrunning 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and 30-year-olds. I wasn't the fastest because they had amazing people in the academy,
Sure.
but I wasn't at the end of the pack.
Yeah.
And I was anywhere from 30 to 40 years, 30, 35 years older than most of the people there.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Phenomenal.
So to get to your answer of your question, did they know? Well, in the police academy, the 9th district deputy director of the drug task force came to teach a class, and he kept staring at me. And I'm like, do I have something on my nose? Do I have toilet paper on my shoe? I'm trying to figure out why he's looking at me the way he's inquisitive, like, is this her? Is this her? And finally, I graduate the academy. I go back to my department, and I'm at a parade. And the major is giving me the double down lock hard look as he's driving by. And again, I'm like, do I have toilet paper on my pants? Because I went to the bathroom and I got dressed real quick. And then finally I just asked him, and he says, do you know and it clicked. The 9th district drug task force contacted my department and told him about my contact to the Secret Service. So all of a sudden now I was getting that look. Nobody would say anything. Nobody wanted to even broach the subject. So what you see on TV is actually a facade.
Absolutely.
There are us mediums and channelers that do help out. I do investigations of many murdered and missing Indigenous people.
That's why I don't watch
I
TV
have
anymore. Yeah.
Well, I still do it, but the fact is I have to be able to give law enforcement enough information of where to go and how to go to be able to make and find the evidence so that they can make the conviction. And there's people in prison for it.
It would help the law enforcement tremendously if they were to be open-minded and allow these people with amazing skills to work with them and not ostracize them. That would be so helpful. It would make their work so much easier.
I agree, but the fact is they're not prepared for it yet.
Yes, that's a key.
They're
Yes.
not prepared for it. I see it changing. I see it getting better. I see it helping and them understanding there are some people that are not fake or that are not true. And they're wannabes, as we call them, fakes. But
Yeah.
there are us that who do it, and we do it privately so that we can help out the families. But I tell the families what I find out, I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you, then it becomes third person to law enforcement. I'm going to tell it directly to law enforcement, guide them, and let them make the physical connections so that you can get justice for your loved one.
Yeah. I mean, the service secrets at the highest level they use in spying or in espionage, they use this kind of, mental capacities like, say, remote viewing or psionics to really penetrate, get all the secret. But it would also help to use that at the law enforcement level to really crack down on all the crimes and really clean up the society. But again, it's just a matter of them not being ready, or maybe some people not wanting them to have access to that information to really, because if they do it, They can unravel some of the crazy thing they're doing that they're trying to hide.
Yes,
That is the
there's the
thing.
truth. There's the truth,
Yes.
because as a remote viewer, when you can see premonitions, you're remote viewing on these situations.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's the future, or you can actually go in the here and now and remote view somewhere else and see what's going on and be able to describe it or draw it and gather the information. The government used to have that. And then it was like, oh, you're in the woo-woo world. And so they
That's it.
stopped it. So it was like, it wasn't sociably acceptable, but it's been happening for a long, long time. And it's still going on. It's still going on.
Wow. That is. Wow, that's amazing. Incredible.
So in May of this year, I finally hung up the badge. I hung up the law enforcement shield. I hung up everything. And in the last 5 years, I created very low key my business. And it is doing healings. It is doing helping people with boundaries and mindset, self-care, all the things they need to recapture themselves.
We're going to talk about your business in a moment, but first, that's fascinating. Let me now ask you some questions, to a series of rapid fire questions to get to know you as a person, to see who's Chris as a human being. Tell us first. Wow, I'm still speechless because such a fascinating story. Now tell us, what makes you happy as a person, as a human being now?
Well, I had to find my happiness. And in 2012, I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And my husband was still living down in South Florida because he hadn't retired yet. I'm up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the closest heart hospital to me is 50 minutes away north of me.
Wow.
So I call him on my car phone, and I'm driving up to the hospital because I called my doctor and said, hey, listen, this is what's going on. They said, have somebody take you, but I didn't have anybody to take me. So I drove myself to the hospital. I get up there, I tell them what's going on.
You didn't call
And I'm
911?
No, well, they do, but I didn't want to call them because I'd have no way home.
Okay.
I'm thinking analytical law enforcement here, compared to if it's nothing, I won't have a way home and nobody to come get me.
Yeah.
So I drove myself up there. I get in there. They do all these tests. 4 hours later, they come and back to me and said, Miss Ferguson, do me a favor, lay down, don't move excessively. Can you just lay there? And I said, is it my heart? And they said, no, your heart is fine. I said, okay, what's going on? And they said, ma'am, you have 2 pulmonary embolisms, 1 in each lung.
What does that mean?
It's a blood clot.
Oh, wow.
1 in each lung. And I said the same thing to them. I'm like, even though my mother-in-law passed away from 1 pulmonary embolism, it didn't register with me at the time. And I said, what is that? And they said, ma'am, it's a blood clot. You have 1 in each lung. And at that point, it was like being in a Charlie Brown cartoon when Charlie Brown's at school and everything is whoa, 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 whoa. Nothing was registering. I was going into a state of shock. I actually think I started to travel at that point, but I was so afraid and in that fear that I pulled myself back in and say, wait a minute, you're not leaving without me, you know? So they got me up into the room, and it took a week to get my blood levels therapeutic on warfarin and heparin and different things. And so they said, well, who's going to pick you up? We're going to release you today. And I said, nobody. And they said, what do you mean nobody? How did you get here? And I said, I drove. I said, since I drove here, can I drive home since I have my keys and my car's out in the parking lot? And they said, yeah, we can release you. And I said, okay, thank you. So I drove home. And when I got home and my answering machine was being blown up, the whole time I'm in the hospital, my niece has fallen off the planet.
Oh, wow.
The last person she was with was her boyfriend. They were fighting, but because previous in that year, she had been at a party and got arrested for a juvenile drinking alcohol. They sent her to a rehab center 3 hours from home. Well, one of my half sisters went down to this rehab center, snuck her out and tried to get her home. And just before she got back to home, a police officer that knew she should have been in this rehab got her and she was charged with a runaway. But this time they let her stay home. And so when she disappeared, by their laws in their city or their county, they could not do anything. They listed her as a possible runaway. And it had to be a possible runaway for 45 days. The calls that I was getting, because from my niece, was, Aunt Chris, help Robin. Kayla's disappeared. The cops aren't doing anything. And I'm like, okay. So I was home for 7 weeks, still trying to get therapeutic with my blood clots. But all of a sudden, it wasn't about me anymore. It was about finding Kayla. And the cops hadn't done a forensic investigation of her Facebook page. They hadn't done a timeline of what were her areas that she was. They hadn't talked to my sister. They hadn't done a timeline of what happened, that the things my sister did when her daughter didn't come home. They hadn't talked to her. So this was the end of March. And so finally in April, my sister, alcoholism runs in my family. Let's just be transparent. My sister has a problem with alcohol. However, if my child fell off the planet and I didn't know where she was, and she's my last child, I would be a lunatic. You would not be able to control me. I would be going everywhere and anywhere to try to find my child.
Sure.
Well, she did. But her biggest mistake was she didn't want to call the police because she didn't want to get Kayla in trouble because she was on probation. Well, I kept telling my sister, the longer she doesn't come home of her own free will is because she can't. And I kept seeing red. And at the first, I thought it was me, and I was seeing my blood issues that I was still trying to work through. And then finally, I just said to the Creator, show me, show me, show me. So I had my sister come out here to Tennessee from Colorado, and I started doing a timeline. I started doing, I had already done a forensic investigation on her Facebook page of her friends and created a core list of people law enforcement should talk to. Then I was actually creating the timeline for her. And I got a call. They said, Chris, it was the police in Fort Morgan. They said, we can't find Robin. I said, she's here. And they go, where's here? I said, she's here in Tennessee at my house. And they said, what are you doing? I said, well, you guys haven't done a timeline. You haven't done a forensic investigation on her Facebook page. I said, you haven't talked to Robin about the things she did when after Kayla disappeared, where she went, who she spoke to. So I'm doing that timeline now. And they said, and then this detective said, would you share it with us? I said, absolutely. I'm doing this to help you. So then another detective got on the phone and he started asking Robin questions, and his tone is changing. And at one point he says, so why did you want a rifle? You had Kayla ask a boy at school for a rifle. And she says, well, I wanted to get a bearskin rug, but I had to get a rifle to go bear hunting to get the rug. He goes, are you sure that's your only reason? And that triggered me. And I said, excuse me, sir, I'm not sure I'm understanding this tone or this line of questioning. I said, you're now talking to my sister as if she's a suspect. And I said to him, and I said, I hope this line is recorded. And he said, of course it's being recorded. I said, great, because when you arrest the boyfriend's mother for her part in my niece's disappearance, you will know what they did with her body. And this detective decided to start challenging me and defending this mother. And I said, please, I want you to hear it come out of my mouth again. And I repeated what I had said. And they hung up the phone. I finished doing everything Robin and I had done. I compiled it up. I sent it to them on an email. 13 months to the day. Well, before that, long story short, my sister went to the sheriff's department to the county courthouse to get a restraining order against his boyfriend and his mom. And the undersheriff there had two females block my sister's exiting the courthouse. So she's calling me on speed dial and says, Houston, we got a problem. And we had agreed that this way I knew she was dealing with law enforcement. And I said, what's going on? She goes, they will not allow me to leave the courthouse. I said, who? And this girl started yelling. She goes, listen, wait a minute. She goes, hold on. My sister is asking me a question. I'm going to answer it. She says, I don't know. It's the deputy sheriff and 3 females. And then she started getting to be herself and being descriptive. This is fat, bada, 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 bada. And I said, wait a minute. No, please don't do that. I said, have they charged you with a crime? And she said, no. I said, so Robin, I need you to go back to the district attorney's office in the courthouse and ask to see a district attorney to file a search and seizure complaint with the district attorney against this chief deputy and these females that are employees of the sheriff's office, because they're denying your right to leave. They're seizing you there in that moment. They're violating your 4th Amendment. And this deputy sheriff says, who are you talking to? She goes, this is my sister and she's a cop. Do you want to keep talking or are you going to let me pass? And he then he told him, he said, move, because I was exactly correct. She walked out and left. So one night, my sister, in a drunken stupor, had put the non-emergency number on speed dial on her cell phone. And she's calling the sheriff's department. She's drunk. And then all of a sudden the dispatcher had said, I'm going to send cops over there to arrest you. You keep calling here and harassing us. And my sister says, wait a minute. It's 2 o'clock in the morning for me. So it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for her because she's on mountain time. And all of a sudden I'm like, hello. And I hear a voice I'd never heard before and said, who is this? And my sister gets on there. She goes, wait a minute, just listen. This is my sister. And I said, okay, what's going on here? And she says, your sister keeps calling the sheriff's department. I said, did she call 911? And she said, no. I said, so what's the problem? She keeps calling here and my sister butts in. She goes, yeah, she's sending the cops to arrest me. And I said, they can't arrest you for calling the non-emergency number. You can call it till the sky turns purple. It's not against the law. Yeah. All of a sudden the dispatcher hung up. And I said, Robin, go to sleep. Let me take care of it. That was my go-to statement to her that would get her to calm down enough to go to sleep, pass out, and end it. So law enforcement learned. I told him, I said, if you know it's her, hang up. What are you doing? But she keeps calling. Well, okay, she keeps calling. Hang up. Yeah. If she calls 911, then it's a whole nother story. So the fact is this is what it was. And then 13 months to the day that I told that detective, the neighbor of the boyfriend had gotten caught up on drug charges. He wore a wire for law enforcement and went next door to the boyfriend's house. And they heard the boyfriend and the mom had testified to a grand jury. And they found out that they had purged themselves on 6 different counts. So they went there to arrest them. The mother tried to bribe an FBI agent not to arrest her.
Wow.
Yes.
The worst that he can do.
It gets better because they go to jail. They get booked into jail. Mom's bail is $250,000 cash because it's on perjury charges. And this judge doesn't like liars.
Oh, yeah.
So within 24 hours, Ivan tells his attorney to get a hold of, and the chain link all the way back to the detective sergeant of the police department. If you can get my mom's bond lowered so she can get out of jail and be able to bail out of jail, I'll show you where we put Kayla's body.
Oh, no. Wow.
And so the judge was actually very apprehensive to lower the bond. And when they explained to him what was going on, he agreed. And so within 2 hours, he showed him where they had put her body. But Fort Morgan, Colorado is farmland. They have 2 factories there. They have a cattle factory where it's a processing factory, and they have a beet factory. And that's where all the farmers bring their vegetables and stuff to get it processed. And it's now 11:11 here. Wow. But I had drawn a letter to the police, and I had remote viewed. I'd never been in this section of Fort Morgan ever in my life. And I said, if you go down this street, you go up and you go past the dump and you come to the first intersection, you make a left, you're going to go past a field with 3 horses, a red tractor outside of a barn, and take a right. It's going to T, and it's on that road, and it's a little windy. Well, they found her on the W road. I just made a W with my hand. It was not even a half a mile from the intersection of where that barn where you turned at the T down on the left. And I had drawn them a picture, a directional. I just didn't know the streets names. I just didn't know. And I said, and I told my sister and them she was placed in a corrugated pipe. And this was before they found her. But the problem is that they tried to burn her body so nobody could recognize her. And of course, if you don't know what cremation is, it takes a small container, 2,300 degrees to cremate a human body. So when that didn't work, they put out the fire, wrapped her in a Mexican sarapa, and stuck her in the corrugated pipe. Well, she'd been there for 13 months. Well, there's badgers and wolves and coyotes and all kinds of carnivorous animals out there, 1. But 2, there was billions of water during that springtime and that summertime of that year, just before he agreed to show him where they put her body, that had flowed through this irrigation pipe into an irrigation canal. So he showed them what they did. They were able to find bones and could enough to get DNA from and confirm it was Kayla's body. He never admitted to killing her. And they flat out told me, Chris, you have to either find a body part where he shot her, the gun, or get a confession. So I said, I told Kayla, I said, Kayla, I need you to haunt him. I need you to haunt him as hard as you can, so that it drives him to be honest and tell the truth. He's currently sitting in prison on 2 aggravated assault cases of attempted murder, where he was behind a car and it didn't move fast enough for him. So he gets out with a crowbar and starts beating this elderly man and his wife. And 2 truck drivers stopped him and held him until he got there. So he got attempted murder charges. So he's in prison. However, the fact is 13 months to the day, I told him what would happen. I told him what would transpire for them to find out the truth.
Incredible. Wow.
So I then told my sister, I said, I would rather have my daughter in trouble with probation and parole and had called the police. You could have gotten to her before she was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't want her to get in trouble. Sometimes as parents, we have to take that stance, not only to protect our children, because statistics, FBI statistics shows that any person that is, whether they're male or female, the last person that saw them, if it's their significant other or their boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse, they're the one that committed the crime. It's just proving it. So my sister, the one thing she did to honor her daughter was to get 2 things done. It got the laws in Fort Morgan County to change their laws that any missing child under the age of 18 would never be labeled as a runaway, and they could start investigating it immediately. And 2, one of the laws that was in the state, they didn't want to charge him with destruction or desecrating a dead body, because he admitted to doing that, and that was a misdemeanor. And if they used that in court, they could have plea bargained things down to more of a misdemeanor instead of the 6 felonies he got. So they didn't want to use that. So my sister rallied the governor at the time in Colorado, and they changed the law that desecrating of a human body is now a felony and no longer a misdemeanor. So some good came out of this to help people in the future. But again, it is talking about it. And the sad thing about this, Kayla was a part of a counseling group at school, and she had done a picture on domestic violence. And nobody asked her, Kayla, is that you? It could have gotten her help to be able enough to get the courage to walk away and know. But he was a Sereno gang member, and I think he was the bad boy she thought she could change. And that mindset never works.
Absolutely. Wow. What a powerful story. Wow.
So when your abilities work and are validated, being the finishing for this, it just shows how we can help each other when stuff like this goes down.
Wow. So many things that so many direction we can take this. And if I were to do that, we would be here till tomorrow because it's such a fascinating thing. But let's move forward. One thing I want to know is, you growing up, you went through incredible hardships. What kept you going? What allowed, there's a saying that says, change your story to change your life. So when you had to change your story, the story you keep telling ourselves on our head all day long, when you were alone on the streets, nobody to help you, and as a teenager, how did you change your story? What allowed you to just not say, screw it, I'm out, and go toward the wrong path, or just kill yourself or whatever? What kept you grounded and going in order to change your life so that you can get an education and build a life for yourself? So how did you change your story to change your life? That's what I'm trying to say. That's something would be fascinating. That would be worthy of a book, because that's, especially for someone like you who's been from the one extreme to the other, that would be beyond fascinating. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you change your story to change your life?
Well, to finish the happiness, by helping others is how I became happy.
Okay.
Using my skills to help people not know what my family knows makes me happy.
Beautiful. Okay.
So two, when I was 8 and chasing down that car and I got very, very angry, that was when Geronimo came to me. I was 8 years old. I was seeing spirits. Had my imaginary friends, but I never told anybody.
So
But he was always.
So you started seeing spirits from the moment you started drinking that liquid under the sink, as a result of that, right? Or was you were able to
Yes.
see spirit even before that too?
No, it was after my near-death experience at 4.
Okay.
When I was 8 and chasing down the car, I became angry. And then I started hearing this voice. And this voice says, this is not you. This is not you. You didn't do anything wrong. Because at first, as kids, we start to self-reflect. Oh, if I'd been a better kid, or if I didn't get in trouble, or if I didn't cry a lot, or whatever, we do that to try to justify why this is happening to us. And I kept hearing, you're not to blame. You're not to blame. You're stronger than you know. You're stronger than you know. And so every time that I thought of doing something, he said, what would your parents do? And I was like, what do you mean, what would your parents do? He goes, what would your parents do? And I thought about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, if they're going this way, I don't want to do that, because I saw what they did in their lives. I'm going to take a left or a right. I don't know where it's going to take me, but I know as long as I'm not doing it their way, I'll be okay. And every time I would either take a left or a right, and it was like, yes. What are you going to do now? I don't know. How are you going to get through this? I don't know. What would your parents do? I kept hearing that over and over in my teenage life. When these girls tried to kill me, it was like, what would your parents do? It was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm taking a hard left or a hard right. I'm saving me, because they couldn't even save themselves.
Wow.
So that was the turning point at 8, when I was walking back, and it was the hardest walk I had to walk, from chasing her out of the orphanage area back to this orphanage that I was now going to be living at. And my sister was 5. She was the youngest of all of us. I used to sneak down and sleep under her bed so nobody would bother her, until they caught me. And then they tried to block the doors, but being resourceful, the bathrooms connect one end of the building to the other. And so I would go through the bathroom and then go and sneak down there to make sure nobody bothered her. But that's how I changed my life. I would always think, what would my parents do? And I went a different direction. Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. Was I a thick-headed kid? Yes. But in my mind, I was surviving, and I was surviving some of the horriblest tortures and traumas, and then living on the streets of the fear of uncertainty is why I am so grounded now. I don't fear at all. And that was the lessons that I learned as a kid, because if I feared, then I bring more fear to me. If I stand in my power, even if I don't know where it's taken me, I'm standing in my power and I can do anything. And that's been my motto since 8.
Wow. Powerful, powerful. Wow. It's a powerful way to learn. So you've been through a lot of things in your life. Now, looking back in retrospect of all of those, do you see a purpose for that? Do you see a reason? Do you see what lesson were, because the previous version of me, when something bad happened to me, and mind you, I have not gone through nowhere near anything that you've gone through, but when something bad happened to me before having the spiritual awakening, I would say why, and but since the spiritual awakening now, I'm asking a different type of question, like, what is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson to be learned here? Now you're looking at these incredibly challenging, circumstances that you had to go through. What was what was the main lesson for you to learn through all of that? What were they trying to teach you now that you can look at these from all the wisdom experience of your life so far?
Not to allow your past to define you.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're children under 18, we're legally not responsible for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is and in society, it's the children that get hurt the most as a child. They're the ones that get sexually assaulted. They're the ones that molestation. They're the ones that parents walk away from. But when you are born to broken parents, or parents that aren't capable of loving you, and you don't know that, your life is going to be troublesome. Your life is going to be impossible. Your life is going to be, you're going to have those obstacles and barriers that you're going to have to come through. But as you go through them and you disassociate the emotions of the past and allow that experience to become your foundation and empower you to use this experience instead of pain and trauma and being the victim, step above it, step out of it. Show yourself that you've been through this. You survived it. If you're here today as an adult, you are 100% surviving everything that happened in your life. You can, and when you understand now, you disassociate the emotions to the trauma, it becomes your experiences. It's your foundation. I don't want you to forget those experiences. I just don't want it to be painful for you anymore, because if it's still painful, you're still attached to the emotions. Mm-hmm. You haven't learned the lesson. Okay. So not allowing you to define yourself by your past, because I'm one of 11 children, Payman. Wow. I'm one of 2 with a college degree. It's all about choices. And Absolutely. They were my choices to make. And it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're so far beyond the tracks, you can't even find the tracks to get to the tracks. You can define who you are and become anything in life.
Wow. That's so true. That's so true. Absolutely. Wow. So many things that we can touch on, but we definitely have to do a part 2, because that is a fascinating conversation. Now, let's move forward. Let's talk about your business. Tell us what you're doing now. What kind of impact you're having in the world?
Oh, I'm having amazing impact on the world. I am the intuitive manifestation specialist, which is my branding behind me. Yes. And I have clients, and it's help teaching them their boundaries, their value, their worth. Mm-hmm. They're changing their mindset from that first reaction. Is it negative? Are you walking on eggshells? And 2, what self-care are you doing for yourself? Are you exercising? Are you stretching? You don't even have to go run a mile. Just stretch in the morning. Say thank you when you wake up. Show that gratitude for each and every morning. But think of it this way. Every morning you have a new day to recreate yourself and do something different that you want to do and stand in. So with that, I do that. I do healings. I've been able to work with people to help them cure themselves of cancer, emotional, alcoholism, smoking, trauma of any kind, and let them understand it on a soul level where they can connect with their 5-year-old child and hear how proud that 5-year-old child is of them and all the things they've been able to get beyond, which is very, very powerful. And then I went to Shasta this year, and Shasta is the root chakra of the planet.
Mount Shasta, right?
Mount Shasta in California, yes.
Mm.
And most people who do yoga and all this understanding, they want to balance their chakras, they never think of the earth having chakras. So the fact is that if we have chakras, the earth has to have chakras. We're made of the earth. We come from the same DNA. And so in Pluto's cave, it was an amazing, amazing thing. My phone, I didn't have a flashlight, one mistake. I had a walking stick, but two, I was using my phone and my flashlight on my phone wouldn't work. So I pulled up my pictures, but it doesn't give you depth perception. And I'm trying to step off of lava boulders, and I almost broke my foot a couple times. And I got back to 3 of the 4 caves. And I said, you know what? I had heard in my head, I just heard this voice say, you've gone far enough. You can turn around. As I'm turning around and I'm starting to walk out of cave 3, I heard a voice. A lady was sitting on the side, just in quiet. And she says, my God, I can see your village, your tribe following you.
Wow.
And I just started taking pictures. And in these pictures, you see all these orbs are in front of the picture of the camera, but the rocks are crystal clear. They're perfectly in focused. And I said, yes, I feel them. I know they're here. I love them. They have helped heal me on such a level that my inner child is now complete. So as I was walking out of cave 3 to cave 2, there's a natural opening. And before I got there, I just happened to take pictures. I walked through a vortex right in front of me. And as I stepped out into this opening between the 2 caves, the guardian keeper of the cave, a white owl, came flying from the 2nd cave towards the 3rd cave and went above my head and out the opening. And I've worked with owl medicine. It was one of the first medicines I worked with as becoming a shamanic practitioner at 16.
Wow.
So it was a good reminder. In fact, I found several items that I have, and one of them was a shamanic woman with an owl over her head and looking out the eyes of the owl for wisdom and clarity. And so I found that when I got back from Shasta. But in Pluto's cave, I heard you need to honor the chakras. So in March, I'm having an event where I'm going to Maui, Hawaii, which is a gatekeeper. For every chakra, there's a gatekeeper. So in that, I'm going to Maui because it's the gatekeeper of chakra, of Shasta, but it supports Shasta. So we're going to honor the divine feminine there on Maui because of all the love and light that we're coming into in this age of Aquarius. So as a way of healing Shasta, you heal the gatekeeper. And so we're going to be doing a healing. I have speakers. I have people that understand light language that are going to be speaking of it, speaking Lemurian, and just embracing and educating people on the chakra and the gatekeeper.
Wow.
And so right now it's a 7-year project. So every year I'm going to do a different chakra and a different gatekeeper.
So where are you said there are 7 chakras on the planet?
Yes.
Where are they located? So you said one in Mount Shasta, one in Hawaii. Where else?
No. The one in Hawaii is a gatekeeper. It's like a vortex. It's not a chakra. The sacral chakra is in Lake Titicaca, which is Peru, Bolivia border.
Yeah.
The intuition, your solar plexus, is Ayers Rock in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the heart chakra, which is in Glasgow.
Oh, wow.
British Columbia. United Kingdom.
Oh, Scotland. You mean Scotland?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the throat chakra is actually in the Great Pyramids.
Okay. In Egypt. Okay.
Mhm. The third eye is it travels, it's not fixed, it's all over the place, but currently it's at Stonehenge and will be there for the next 10 years.
Oh, wow. That's
And
fascinating.
then the last chakra is in a mountain in the Himalaya in Tibet. So I'm going to be going to all of these places and doing a 2-day event with speakers and local people and doing ceremonies and doing understanding of the lifestyle there. And so I'm actually creating a pitch deck trailer right now for media. I'm looking at Gaia TV and a couple other spiritual TV modalities or platforms to see if they'd be willing to travel with me.
Phenomenal. But even if they would not, you could always, document your journey yourself on YouTube, on Facebook. And once they see you have traction, you have people following you, they will come to you.
And I agree. When I see Ayers Rock,
Mhm.
I know your dream is to go to Australia, but I feel New Zealand is where you really need to go,
Oh, wow. Yes.
because New Zealand actually has a gatekeeper of the chakra.
So what
And
is
it
it? Sorry,
has,
sorry for my very newbie question. What is the difference between newbie and a chakra uh, in the world?
okay, a chakra is like a energy center.
Hmm.
It is a crystalline energy center
Okay.
that helps balance. And when they're all in balance, the earth heals. Energy vortex is like Mount Hood in Oregon or Montana, Glacier Lake, Mount Helen. Those are all vortexes that are gatekeepers for different energies of the planet, because then you have ley lines that connect it all. And as you go to a vortex, it's like reaching down into the vortex and send the healing down into the vortex to reach up into the base of Shasta and help heal it or connect to the energies there. There's so many things about Shasta. It's known as the manifestation mountain. It's also where they see a lot of alien spaceships and interactions with aliens there. I actually have a picture where we were leaving Pluto's cave that night, and I was trying to take a picture of the full moon. And we're doing 70 miles an hour north on I-5. And I click this picture and I get the side of a mountain. And there's this white object on it. And as you enlarge it, it's the owl's face. So the energy was following me as I was leaving Pluto's cave.
Wow.
And if you slide the picture to the right, you see 3 grays and a Sasquatch just above this yellow barrier that's on the highway. And they're all picture clear and you can see these.
You have
So
this
the
picture?
energy, I'm sorry?
You have this picture?
I do.
Would you be open to sending it to me after? I would love to have a look at it.
I would absolutely do that for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm honored to see it. Wow, because that's something I'm absolutely fascinated as well. So yes, wow. I'm super happy that we connected and I have so much to learn from you. And I mean, we all have to learn from each other, but especially everything you've gone through and everything you're doing. Keep me posted about your events. I will, whatever I can to help you promote them, I will do it. And when I'm in a position spiritually to be able to attend those, because I'm just starting my spiritual journey, I would love to be part of your journey myself and go with you in all of these places. And
I would love that, Payman. Actually,
absolutely,
we have time. If you have time,
sure, yeah.
okay. They're telling me to activate you now.
Oh, okay, let's do it. That's the second
Are
time
you
something like this happened to me. Amazing. I'm all game. Let's do it.
okay? Just sit back, relax. You keep shuddering because you're feeling the energy of this
Oh yes.
conversation.
Oh, yes.
You're buzzing from your head to your toes. So take a deep breath in. You can actually just close your eyes for a moment. Oye kotoro lo moho na ache kotahasana mai cheo katahana. Boye katara nana mohai cheo. Exhale. Tatara la moha na katera la iche oko moha na saseo tatara moha. Kotara lai cheo tatana mahasa. Exhale. Right now, your crown and your head is tingling because I just activated. You're no longer left brain or right brain. You are your brain. And in that, you now can harmonize with your heart. So I want you to take a deep breath in. I want you to hold it, but I want you to count 10 heartbeats without touching your heart. And exhale. Ta'ai kotoro lala mohana chicheo. Kosa ashe kotoro lala mohana. Ta'ai kotoro sosoho mohana cheo. Mo aneo katahase shoshina na mohasa ai. Ba'akara leo totomoha. They say, take a deep breath in, expand your ribs, expand it, envision a golden sphere in your heart. Feel 10 heartbeats and exhale. Acheo katana. Potara saseo namohani. Gohario. All that no longer serves you is traveling from your crown down. You're feeling the energy, the tingling, and it's going down your legs and into your feet. Allow it to be released to Mother Earth for her to clean what no longer serves you, what no longer are those barriers or those blocks in your life that has prevented you from dreaming your dreams fully and completely. Take another deep breath in. Envision that sphere that is like a ping pong ball size just grew to a softball size. Moye katara sasa, Mother Earth is coming up your legs and through your thighs and your hips and your lower torso up into your heart to melt this sphere all around the heart in those areas that you've had pain, you've had trauma, you've had uncertainty, you've had doubt. You second guessed yourself and filling in those holes with gold. So you will be complete. And exhale. Akara totoromoha. Jajeo kotoro sasahama ani. Bate no kotoro sasahaneo chochi. You have a little bit of tenseness in your third eye between your brow. It's called your brow. And that's just because this is so new to you. It's a just breathe. Just take in a breath, hold it for 3 and exhale. I forgive you, you forgive me brings peace, love, and harmony. I forgive. This is from you to you. I forgive anything that I've done to you that's caused pain, that's trauma, that's caused hurt, intentionally or unintentionally in this life or in a past. I forgive you, and exhale. Take a deep breath in, hold it for a count of 3, and then exhale. Forgive me for anything I might have done to hurt you, cause pain, to cause you loss of faith and value and worth, intentionally or unintentionally in this life or in any past lives. Oh, take a deep breath in. Hold it. Count to 3 and exhale. All of this brings love, peace, and harmony to you, to me, to your future, to your past, to your world. Open your eyes. How do you feel, Payman?
Relaxed. Feel relaxed. I did see you. I always have the hardest time, visioning things when I close my eyes, but I see some patterns, forming and just moving and circling around. So I was trying to envision, as you mentioned, the circle
Golden
of
sphere?
golden sphere around my heart. I did, but again, I have a hardest of time envisioning things
It's
when I
not
close.
trying to think about it or envision it. It's
Okay.
feeling it. Feel
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Don't try to envision it because that's where you're using the masculine.
Okay.
Envision it. Because as you envision it, it's just, right now it's growing to the size of a soccer ball. You can feel it expanding and it's going around your chest, up your back and over your shoulders. You're starting to feel it because want to do this?
Mm.
And the thing is feel it. That's why I didn't want you to touch your heart, because the masculine tries to control. The heart wants you to feel. And if you can harmonize your heart and your mind, you'll speak from love and never be offensive to anybody, no matter what you say, no matter what that truth is.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow, powerful. What language was it that you were
Well, I'm
talking?
from the Palladians, and this is
Wow,
from my planet, Alcyon, and it's
wow.
one of the seven sisters.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. I don't know if you saw my post on my Facebook page last week. I had an incredible guest last week, Cornelia. She's a hypnotherapist and a medium from Germany. She did a live past life reading on me. Was able to access my energy and my soul. Asked me a question about where my soul is originally from, how many lifetimes I've had. I found out I had over almost 1,800 lives, past lives, and I'm originally from the earth, and a bunch of other things. So powerful that we're supposed to talk for 2 hours, and we ended up talking for. Sorry, we're supposed to talk for 20 minutes. We talked for 2 hours. The only reason I stopped it because I had a podcast 4 minutes after that. Absolutely phenomenal. I took 2 pages of notes, and I must have watched that video at least 4 or 5 times. So absolutely phenomenal. That's something I'm extremely fascinated, and I do want in the New Year's, after New Year, sometime in Q1, to do a proper, past life regression and to learn more about myself. And also, one of the things I really want to achieve to do in 2022 is to learn about hypnotherapy, not to use it as a business, but for my own knowledge. Just want to learn about that because that's something I'm completely captivated, fascinated. It's just the more you get into that, the more you say, "Wow!" You just speech. I'm speechless, and I'm so happy
I
that we
don't think
connected.
everybody knows that I'm a hypnotherapist.
Oh, you! Oh, wow! So many. You're a multifaceted, talented
Well, those are just
lady.
tools that I use as a healer to
Absolutely.
help people. They're just
Yes.
tools.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
Just like
Phenomenal.
money, if I could help your clients out, money is a tool.
Totally.
Don't think of it as lack. I've been
Yes.
getting some flack from people because they say you don't charge enough for your clients. I said, no, I do. I do charge because when I was a child, I wanted to become that person that I needed when I was that child that I didn't have. And so I wanted to be able to make all my programs affordable for those people who can't afford the high paying
Thank you.
classes
I'm
or
the
the
same.
high paying healings or the high paying understandings of life, and yet help them get clarity. So that's why I do have high paying programs, but I don't advertise those. Those are the people that come to me. The ones I
Absolutely.
advertise are the ones that help the ordinary person.
I'm exactly the same. Exactly the same. I just launched my challenge. Tell people launch a podcast in 3 weeks. I could charge 5,000, 4,000. I'm only charging 500 because it's all about helping the people that are doing good to amplify the voice, to amplify the impact,
Mhm.
have the greatest impact. So absolutely, I'm the same page on that as you. Wow, phenomenal. Listen, we can talk for hours. We've been talking for almost an hour and a half, 2 hours now. There's so many more questions I want to ask you, but wow, we definitely need to do a part two after the New Year's because
Okay.
there's so many questions I still haven't talked to you. I asked you, and I mean, there's so much more. I mean, we can do an entire podcast just me and you. I would feel that would be an amazing. That would be amazing. So let's wrap this up and let me ask you some rapid fire questions about advice. Answer those in 1 or 2 sentences. For example, the first question I want to ask you is, what is the best piece of advice you've received so far?
Ooh, the best advice I could give somebody is to get out of your own way, get out of your thoughts,
Mm,
quit telling yourself the story that never comes true.
that's true.
That you sit there, oh, he did this or she did that, or this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Stop telling yourself the stories because it's what you're creating. It's not reality.
Very
Don't
true.
listen to that inner chatter.
Absolutely. This is so powerful. Now, what would you say has been so far the worst piece of advice you've received?
I have a hard time when people say you need to get yourself balanced,
Mm,
because balancing is a leverage system. That means you have to give up something to get this something to keep it here. It's harmonizing because we're frequencies as a being, we're frequencies. and frequencies aren't balanced. Frequencies flow. So if you can get rid of the word balanced and harmonize and allow the energy to flow, your life gets so much simpler and not so complicated.
Beautiful. That's so true. Imagine if you could go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old Chris. What would be the number one advice you would give to her, knowing everything you know now?
Well, I've done it with my 5-year-old self, my 15-year-old self, and my 22-year-old self. And each one has always been, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for
Yes.
seeing beyond the illusions. Thank you for listening. Because you've been able to accomplish so much. In fact, in all of my 3 death experiences, the creator keeps saying, what are you doing here? And I said, hey, dude, I'm here. You called me. And he says, I'm not done with you yet. You need to go back, and pumps me back into my body, in this 3D body, and it hurts. And I keep saying, dude, I don't have 9 lives. We have this intimate conversation. That's how well I know the creator. We have this intimate conversation. It's like, I don't have 9 lives. He says, I'm not done with you yet. You have so much more to do. And so I'm like, okay, I'm your servant. Show me. Show me.
Absolutely. And this is another thing that I would love to talk more about you, about your death experience and near death experiences and all that, and tell us all about that. We can do an entire episode just on that, because that would be an incredibly fascinating conversation. We'll save that for next time. Now, I know you have your podcast. So imagine that today you have the most special guest in the world, which is you're interviewing yourself. What is the first question you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much. What is the first question that comes to your mind?
Thank you for being here and showing up as you.
Yes.
That would be the first thing I would say. And I think the second question is just, off the top of my head, I got a blank, but it's like, wow,
Mhm.
you're special.
One thing you just said just a couple of minutes ago that really sticking here, you said, thank you for not giving up.
Mhm.
That is so freaking powerful, especially knowing in light of all the incredibly challenging, circumstances that you had to go through. And you mentioned specific ages, probably because those ages were key turning point at 5, at 15, at 22. These are
Mhm.
probably some of the moments you had your toughest challenges in your life, and it was so easy for you to give up or go down the wrong path, or even completely, kill yourself, whatever. But you kept at it. You didn't give up, and you did not only yourself a huge, but you gave the world a fabulous gift, because the impact you've had over the decades around you, saving people, saving how many, the boys you mentioned, that you saved them from false accusation, and I don't know, countless other people that you must have saved throughout your career. Honestly, Chris, and this is not a compliment, this is an observation, you're a blessing to the world. Seriously, you're a gift to the world.
Thank you.
And I really mean
Thank
it.
you.
It comes straight from here, because even though
Mm.
it's the second time we talk, you're one of the people that I could talk for days, I mean, forever, because you have so many incredible experiences and wisdom to share. That, do you have a book yet?
Well, I am a published author. I
Okay.
am a published author, and I have an international bestseller. And my book, Business, Life, in the Universe, Volume 4, that I'm in, is considered one of the top 50 books from Thinkers, THINKERS 360.com, as an influential book of 2021.
What's the title of your book?
It is Business, Life, and the Universe, Volume 4. It's the Blue Talks books with Corey Poirier.
Oh yeah, okay. Corey is amazing.
So, but
yes.
I'm in the process of writing my own. Well, I have a book out there. It's called Leave Your Bubbles Alone. It's about bullying. I wrote for children. But the book I'm doing now is called You've Championed Yourself. Who Are You? And that is the journey. That is the journey of how people can get beyond by using my story to say, you can do this. You can do anything when you trust yourself and believe enough in your worth and your value. When you had no worth and you had no value. The lessons we're learning those.
Absolutely. Wow. You need to have your own TV show, seriously, because you have so much to share, so much to wisdom to spread to people. And now,
I'm
seriously,
I'm hoping that I can get
Gaia,
a
yeah.
TV show to take on my journey, because my journey starts with the first chakra, but it's a lifetime up to that first chakra.
Yeah. Let's brainstorm together to see if and our contact, not just me and you, but anyone, even next week on the serving circle, if anyone has any contact with any TV network or something like that, that's
Mhm.
something that you might want to bring up of it, because it's all, 1 + 1 is not 2 but 11, three people is not 3 but 111, 4 people is 1111. So this is why Matt, I'm pretty sure, we all like what 4 or 5 degrees of connect separated from every
It's
person on the
seven
planet.
degrees. It's 7 degrees
Now it's
of
become lower than
connectedness.
that. I think it's like 5 or 6, whatever. But whatever it is, it's just someone that knows someone that knows someone super high. So let's do that next week on the serving circle, and every group that you are in. Just put the word out there, because one thing I learned, that once you put the word out there, you put yourself out there, and you with good intentions, you're good, magic and false. The right people, miraculously just pop up out of nowhere.
Mhm.
I've seen that so many times in my life.
Before you do your launch, I still want to offer you that E2 system.
Okay, I had a lot. Thank you. And I will take you up on that. I did a soft launch just this past. I started on Monday for group one, a very soft launch for a group of 10, 12 people, but I will do a bigger launch in January. So
Okay. Well, maybe there's
absolutely.
a reason why. That's why I knew I had to activate you today.
Mm, yes, absolutely, and I'm honored for the offer. Anytime we can talk about that, and yeah, so we'll do that. Um, Now, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
It's really, really simple. It's https:// You have to put that there because Microsoft had changed it like 10 months ago. And it's very easy. It's Chris F, as in Frank for my last name, Ferguson, 360.com. It's a one-stop shop. It has all my social media, it has all my contact information, my webpage for coaching, my YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. It has it all.
All right, perfect. I'll put it in the show note. Again, there's so many more questions I want to ask you, but we're running out of time. But we'll definitely do a part two after the holidays and all that. So, listen, Chris, absolute honor. You're one of the most fascinating people I've had on my show. This is going to be number 122, I believe, but so far top three, one of the most fascinating one. And I can't wait to speak to you again on the podcast. And I mean, we could do at least not just one, but 2 or 3 shows. One to ask you the question I want to ask you, and one on the near-death experiences you've had. I mean, so many more things on the chakras and all the beautiful thing. More diving deeper into what you're doing and all that. We might do like a mini season, just me and you, because there's so many things we can talk about. That's amazing. Listen, I salute you. You're a true
I'm honored.
leaders with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your beautiful gift that is your presence, and everything you've been doing, everything you will be doing for the next few decades and all that. So stay awesome. Stay safe. God bless you, my friend. Merry Christmas in advance. All the best wishes. We'll definitely be in touch because we're connected. So as we say here, have a fantabulous day ahead of you. So, and see you soon, my friend. Take care.
Thank you, Payman.
Thank you very
Many
much.
blessings.
Same here. Take care. Bye bye.